Today's video, we're going to talk about starting over on Google Ads. When it's best to just start over than to try to make your current campaigns and account work. When is it right to just slash and burn everything and start over with a brand new account or brand new campaigns? I'm going to answer that in today's video so you understand when to do this and decide this for yourself. I can tell you from experience, generally speaking, accounts, no, you don't slash and burn those. Campaigns you do, but here's the key thing. You do not do it all at once. Given that bad campaigns will still do better than new campaigns that have been advertising for a while. A lot of people get this wrong. You want to have a bridge strategy that I'm going to talk about in today's video, where you can take something that's totally garbage, a rat's nest if you will, and transition it into something better without your sales being affected at all and having way more potential long-term, because you've set things up in a way that allows you not only to test properly, but also scale properly, which campaign structure is everything when it comes to Google Ads, and putting yourself in position to make millions of dollars a year from it for your business. And then I'll give you some case studies here. They say at the end of the video about different markets where we've actually applied this strategy, and then what so you could expect from this strategy, given that how this worked out for the brands that I've worked with, where we started over from scratch, so to say, with the not slash and burn strategy, but pivoting strategy, where you're going to start over from square one, but doing it in an intelligent way. So with that said, most accounts that I take over at our PPC agency, 75% of the time, we are just starting over from scratch rather than trying to fix the current campaigns. And we don't manage just Google search ads. We manage Google Play ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, all online advertising is what we do at our agency. When I say PPC, a lot of people think that just means search ads. Pay-per-click means any online ads where you're paying per click. It's in the name, pay per click. Okay? The reason why though, 75% of the time we're slashing and burning what we got from the get-go is because it's a rat's nest, frankly, and you can't actually test anything efficiently if there's no set, organized way for everything to run. You know, it's similar to, and I call it rat's nest for a reason. If you had a problem with your lights in your house and you went down to the power box, you went ahead and tried to fix the problem. Instead of there being an organized set of breakers and everything else, there was just some random wires in there and you had to figure out what's going on. You wouldn't be able to safely fix anything. Even if you were to shake it and the light started flickering, you got to be able to understand what you're doing, how it's affecting your account. And when you have an ad account where everything's kind of jumbled in together, what most people will do is have a bunch of keywords in a campaign, and you don't know if taking out a keyword itself is worth it or not. You don't know how that's going to affect the campaign as a whole, if you will. And then within that, because they're running a keyword in broad match or even phrase match, you may be getting rid of some problem for yourself, a keyword that's not profitable. Part of that keyword is bringing you revenue and profitable revenue. Just throwing out the keyword in and itself by itself, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot, when really what you needed was a bunch of keywords in exact match so you could find the actual keywords that work, not just a keyword that gets you to show up for everything. And then you either just take all of it or none, so to say. And then furthermore, when you target a certain audience, how are you supposed to optimize whether that audience will work or not? And keyword being another word for an audience. When you have multiple audiences seeing the same ads, you can't optimize hardly at all. And what you need to do is optimize so when everything is sub-segmented out, when party A sees your ad, you can say something to them or something else. You can actually dial in what that person wants, versus if you just showed them a generic ad, yes, it may not work because that ad's too generic. Furthermore, you can't actually test what they're going to see or not see, because you'd have to test that same ad over a bunch of people seeing the same ad. And for some of them it works and some of it doesn't. You're not in position to even optimize anything. If you're not happy with the return you got, or maybe you want to scale more, you can't, because you change something here, it changes something over here, and you get unintended consequences ultimately at the end of the day. The way that I set up campaigns, we're going to sub-segment as much as we possibly can, given that There's a downside to sub-segmenting what you're doing with Google Ads in particular, but other platforms where you're going to spread your budget too thin across everything. And then you also can't run any tests because you only get 1 click a year on an ad. How are you going to optimize that? But at the same time, what most people are doing is they have too few ads, too few campaigns. Everything's thrown in together into that campaign. And then as a result of that, you can't optimize because everybody's seeing the same ad. When really, if they would have split their audiences out and then found the right ad for this guy, the right ad for this guy, the right ad for this guy, you would actually you would be in position to scale ultimately because each person doesn't want to see a unique thing. Each person wants to get to the same part of your website, to see the same product, the same service, same style of page even, the same offer even. Maybe some people will do better with an ebook versus another guy just wants to buy now. And you just have them view the product or service as is. So for that matter, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. As a side note, funny enough here, when our advertising agency, a client hires us and they say, Corey, I want you to take over our ad account. And, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to see is there a way I can predictably scale the profitability of this account? I'm not there to just maintain. We charge too much for that. Nor should you settle for that anyway, because somebody that's trained has to be able to do it better than you. A non-expert could do it. Ultimately, I'm trying to decide, can we salvage these campaigns? 25% of the time, roughly, we can. 75% of the time, it's not worth touching and just come out with new campaigns that'll take us to the next level specifically, and then do our bridge strategy that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Most agencies that take over our work do the same thing. They say, oh, we can't deal with that. We need new campaigns. But I'll tell you, and I'm not just trying to talk up our own stuff here. This is the reality. They do this because they drink the Google Kool-Aid and or have a low maintenance approach to what they're doing. So a lot of agencies, they don't have really big thinkers at their agency. They have people that can follow rules, but they can't come up with innovative strategies themselves. Those people are super rare and they're expensive. And most agencies, they don't have the sales ability to charge enough to hire the good person to do the work. So what they specialize in is selling cheap work, average Joe employees doing the management, and you end up getting a small amount of results with that model, if at all. And then everybody loses in that situation, except for the agency, and they make a little bit of money. But even the agency loses because they could be making more if they just knew how to sell right. So they can sell and charge enough to hire the right people. What I'll see people do is they'll come in, a client that we have, we're knocking it out of the park. They want to save money. So they think they can switch it over to a cheap agency. Instead of charges a couple grand a month, charges $200 a month or $400 a month. Oh, I'm saving money. Corey set it up. Now I can have somebody that's cheaper maintain it. They come in, they unravel all of it 90% of the time because they want to do it their way that their dummy employee that doesn't know anything can easily follow, and because they can't think for themselves, and then they wreck all the results. And I know this because they forget to even remove me from the ad account. So I just literally see what they're doing. And I just think, oh my gosh. And they do this 90% of the time. And so when somebody tells you, the reason why I bring this up, if somebody tells you that wants to work for you, that they need to start all over again, don't assume your campaigns really are screwed up, okay? Who is telling you this matters everything, frankly. Most of the people that you hire, the actual person doing the work on your account probably has like a year or two of experience. Why? I mean, no offense, but the people that are really good that work in agencies, they usually jump ship to a bigger agency where they can get paid more, or they're going to start their own agency, or they're going to start their own e-commerce site. They're not going to stay at an agency getting paid a little bit of money, because why would you do that? It's too easy to start your own agency. It's too easy to jump ship. Frankly, what you get when you try to hire strategists at an ad agency is somebody that's not quite good enough to start their own agency, given that anybody can start an agency if they're good. And then not only that, even if they are good, if they're good, they're going to jump ship and get higher pay. So you're getting somebody who's probably just starting out and therefore not that expensive. They can't charge the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year that a good person could charge. You're getting somebody with a year or two experience doing the work. They really don't know, frankly, if they can actually salvage your campaigns or not, and you're getting somebody that doesn't have a freaking clue what's going on, telling you whether you can salvage those campaigns or not. You either have to figure this out for yourself, which is why I'm making this video for you here to be able to tell, or you need to hire an agency that charges enough that can actually afford to have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing working on your stuff. And for that matter, as I've talked about in my videos about this topic, hiring an agency, if they're not charging you at least several grand a month, you're not getting the person who actually knows what's going on. Because somebody who knows what they're doing in terms of ad strategy, online marketing, knowing how to run ads successfully, knows landing pages, understands that, knows tracking, knows how to do copywriting, they're charging several hundred grand a year, highly valuable, and everybody needs one. And it's hard. Your $500 a month ain't getting that guy. And so all you're going to do is likely lose your money, and the typical client that hires us, they've went through 3, 4, 5 other agencies before trying to hire the cheap ones. It doesn't basically work anymore. It's too hard. Unless you're in a market with very little competition, that's not going to cut the beans. Don't listen automatically what the agency is going to say. If they say cut your losses with these campaigns, start with new campaigns, know that there's going to be a time period that whatever results you are already getting, that's going to disappear. And it's going to take months, if not years, to build back up to the level of sales you even had before. Okay, why? Because Google and their system is set up to look at what worked and what didn't work with your rat's nest, so to say, and then decide to have your ad or not show up or not show up for somebody based upon that person has performed well for you in the past or not. And they're doing this on an individual user level to where if you're a plumber and you are targeting the keyword plumbing services, Google's going to see the 5,000 different ways or people that search for plumbing services, which ones are profitable for you, which ones are not, based upon a person's previous searching history, what that person has bought in the past, because they track users on an individual level like this, what they've said with a Google app on their phone in the recent past, all these different things, okay? And they're going to look at all the people who converted versus didn't convert, and then ultimately when you actually search for plumbing services, you may only show up 27% of the time because that's the 27% they realize is profitable for your company specifically. That's what's getting you the profitable results right there. Even though your campaign was set up like shit, doesn't matter. They were through brute force, trial and error, figured this out over the years. Doesn't matter that the campaign was set up like shit. They eventually learned how to deal with it, which you may not even have tracking on your account. You may wonder how the hell would they know this, whether it works or not. They're going to look at, even if without conversion tracking to track your sales or your leads, they're going to look at bounce rates. Bounce rates by itself. Did somebody click your ad, stay on the site for a reasonable amount of time, indicating higher interest levels and higher likelihood that this person's turning into a customer, and they're going to use that to filter your ads. So you literally can have you can use broad match keywords. You don't have to try very hard with your ads in terms of the setup and the strategy and the thought you put into it. As long as you have lots of money and lots of time for the algorithm to do brute force trial and error to figure out what works. And that's one way to go about doing it. But my point is, why would you want to do that when instead of 2 years, what it takes Google 2 years to figure out, you can figure that out in 2 months or get the same results in 2 months because you were intelligent in terms of how you set your stuff up at the beginning to beat your competition and not need forced trial and error alone to reach a minimum viable point of profitability with your ads so you can start scaling your ad spend and that's where all the money is, of course, frankly. That is something that you got to consider. You are going to lose something slashing your campaigns, and the longer your campaigns have been running, the more you're going to lose. Now that you know that, if you're going to set up the new campaigns, which you should, if you don't feel like you have a campaign set up the way that I'm talking about here, you want to set up everything to be as segmented as possible, as I was touching on before, because that allows you to do testing of what you're doing. Not only whether that person should see the ad, but what they see and then what they're going to see after clicking on the ad itself. This should be done at a keyword/audience level. So you want to have different ads and different landing pages for different keywords. Why? So you can optimize and figure out for that person who types in that keyword on average, what they want to see on the ad, what they want to see on the landing page. Furthermore, whether people type in that keyword are profitable to you or not, versus just mixing it in with a bunch of other keywords and just taking all or none of it. If you're running display ads, you want to break this down on an audience level. Somebody who goes to this site is going to convert differently and want to see something differently than this website over here. Or somebody who actually looks for how to fix a broken fridge versus somebody who wants to figure out how to fix a broken dryer. If you're doing appliance repair, they'll have totally different levels return. And so your goal is to segment this out as much as you can. That's not crossing the line where it's ridiculous and you're spreading your budget out so thin you can't get any data at all on each individual segment. But you figure out, A, what's profitable, so you can take the part that's not working, get rid of it. Part that is, you scale it up. And then once you find out what's working, you can figure out what ad they need to see first of all, and then what landing page they need to see also after that. And that's where the real money is. But if you set up this rat's nest campaign, you can't do this, right? Because everything's blended with everything else. How are you going to test anything? How are you going to know how to get rid of certain stuff that you shouldn't get rid of when everything isn't segmented out like that? And it's hard to take out one thing without taking out another. Of course, when you're talking about search campaigns, you can do negative keywords, right? That'll be a way to take out part of the traffic on a keyword that's in broad match, right? You can do that. However, negative keywords don't work as precisely as what you think they do. Even if you put a negative keyword in an exact match format, it's still not going to always get rid of that search itself. And so the segmentation really does help still and help you achieve the results you want at the end of the day. Because of this, the more you segment your campaigns that you're going to rebuild this time around, the more you can weed out things are not going to contribute to a certain level of ROI that you know you need minimum to be profitable for your company after considering the cost of doing business, the cost of the ad spend, and the more CTR and conversions you're going to get. Because once you know what traffic is profitable, you surgically cut out the stuff that wasn't, because you had 100 keywords instead of 2, and you found 74 of them that didn't work. And so you got every last one that would work, and you still got all of them. Now you can start to do testing on the ad, testing on the landing page to get the absolute most out of those keywords. Or if you're talking about like demand gen campaigns or YouTube campaigns, the certain people that are seeing it, separating them out, 100 different targeting options versus one, and then just taking all or none of it. Because generally speaking, you're going to put yourself in that position, you're going to not make money, and then you're not going to have any choice to fix it. Versus if you would have segmented things out, you could have easily cut out the part that didn't work after a while, and then now at least you got some that's working that's left. You should want to sub-segment what you're targeting on a much higher level than you are already with your new campaigns, because ultimately what people want to see is what they typed in or what they were looking for originally. So if you were targeting the keyword big red shoes, you don't want to see an ad that says we sell shoes. You want an ad that says big red shoes. And you want when you click on that ad to be taken to a page that just sells big red shoes. That's how you get click-through rates triple what you would get otherwise. That's how you get conversion rates that are triple what they would be otherwise. So that because you're making the shopping experience more refined and easier for the user overall. Even if you're running display campaigns and you're running ads on, let's say YouTube, ultimately there, if you are the appliance repair guy and you're just going to talk about how you're an appliance repair guy for the person who's looking how to fix their dryer or their washer and all that, that's only going to take you so far. If you talk about and you segment so that the people looking for help with their washer, an ad that says we are the best washer fixers in the area, you're going to get 3 times the response rate and 3 times, in terms of the click-through rate, and 3 times the response rate on the landing page with a dedicated landing page for that space. That's just the way that it works. Regardless of where you're advertising, these fundamental rules are the same. You got to put yourself in position to find out what works and get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, given that in most markets, so super tiny, there's really only going to be 20% or so of the market that's profitable at the level that you want it. And you got to be able to have a way to segment it out and get rid of the stuff that doesn't work. Of course, tracking that's going to tell you what works and what doesn't work to go along with it. And you got to have a way, because you only have 20% that's left, to go as deep as possible on it. How do we get not just a ad, but the perfect ad? How do we get not just a landing page, but the perfect landing page? So that the 20% that's left after optimizing the ad, after optimizing the landing page, we're spending what we had before, but it's 5 times as many sales because we went super deep on the 20% that's left. And now we're making 5 times what we were before on the same ad spend. That's how you really make great money advertising online, whether you're talking about Google search ads, whatever you're talking about. Because we're talking more so, in terms of Google ads here in general, you have to know your new campaigns when you start them out, though, no matter how good they're set up, no matter if you follow what I'm telling you here to a T, you're still going to have a long slog at the beginning breaking in those campaigns. Campaigns need to be broken in, no matter how good they're set up, whether they're set up by myself or an amateur, before they can really shine. Google's algorithm has 2 things that they got to do before you can get the great return out of them, even if though that they're structured better this time around than your old campaigns. They need to know, 1, is what you set up, does it have actual potential for their users? Google's trying to see the people that see your ad and interact with your ad, did they get a good experience or not? If they are, they don't want you to make money, so you stop advertising. If they are, they want you to show you more and more and more and push out the other advertisers that are in your market to show your ad because you're helping the users get a great or better experience than what they had before. And they want people to click on ads in general. And so they're optimizing for it to push advertisers that they have that are providing a great experience. So they want to click on ads more so in the future. So they're doing that. And then at the same time, also the second thing, going back to what I was saying before, being here that they need to figure out is what part of the traffic does work. Because no market are you going to sell to 100% of the customers. Because there's people who want a premium option. There's people who want a cheap option. There's people who like to hear one thing. There's people who like to hear another thing. There's people that want to see a male on your landing page. There's people that want to see a female on your landing page, whether they're male or female. And it goes on, right? Once they see you're a serious advertiser and they got that out of the way, they still got to figure out, they want to encourage you to stay around as an advertiser. Absolutely. For the forever, essentially. They still got to figure out who's your customer. And they're going to sub-segment the average user thousands of times. Google knows more about you than you know about yourself. When somebody converts, they're going to look at the unique 75,000 traits that person has, from income to sites they visit, things they buy, things they say, things they do, places they go, and then versus the ones who don't convert. And they're going to drill that in for you over time with the right tracking setup, of course, to be able to get this for you. And even if you don't have tracking, they're going to do it based upon bounce rates. And that's where the money is. Ultimately, long-term is when they drill it in and drill it in and drill it in, and eventually get to where the money is for your business. For that matter, you set up these new campaigns, you got to realize that it's going to take a while for these 2 things to happen. For the first to happen, that is to see if you actually have something that the market doesn't have already, that their other advertisers don't have already. That in itself is going to take at least a few months, generally speaking. If you're in a non-competitive market with basically nobody doing what you're doing, and that there's high demand for what you do, this can happen in 2 weeks. If you're in a super competitive market like restoration services, where everybody just wants those calls because you can make money as soon as the phone rings, selling the lead, sending somebody out right away, it can take 18 months with a moderately sized budget at the beginning of like $3,000 a month at the beginning, or even a little bit more than that, just for Google to see you're the top advertiser in the space. Why? Because you're only going to get 100 clicks a month, and the advertisers you're going against, they have many thousands of clicks, and they're going to be cautious as to who they're going to promote, because most guys coming in, 9 out of 10 of them don't provide any use to the market in terms of better usage statistics than the other competitors in your market that are there. And so it's going to take 18 months for them to advertise to see fully that your stuff, after 1,500 clicks as a result of all this, that you actually have something there that's better than the competition, and that they want to make you their favorite. So this is going to take a while. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, you absolutely should. The best information online that you can find about how to make money really with ads, online ads, is going to come from somebody who spends 40 hours a week in the trenches doing ad testing and strategy like I do at our firm. Most of the stuff you see online It's showmen that are trying to make money on Google AdSense, talking about ads. They aren't running ads. Where they're farming they look like they're doing work. They're farming it out to somebody else to make some money. They're not actually in the weeds doing the work. I have to spend 80 hours a week doing ads, doing what I do at our firm, half of which I do the ad strategy, half I have to working on this channel to produce and give you the information I'm sharing on this video, or videos, I should say. And therefore, the information is more useful than what you're going to get with other people that only have time to do YouTube, which they're not doing any of the work. And they don't know in detail what works. So subscribe if you haven't already. I've got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog where you can find step-by-step instructions to follow the strategies that I use at our firm to guarantee our clients' results at our firm. And yes, we have to literally guarantee the results when we don't get paid. If you want to know how we're doing that, you have to follow the strategies on that blog. By the way, if you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, here or just any general marketing questions, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person that leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. Also, you can reach out to me through my Discord group that I've started. You can find a link to my Discord group in the video description. You can also reach out to me through my site as well at guaranteedppc.com. If you reach out to me, you can ask me a question. If you want to consult a coaching call, we can set that up as well. What I mainly do here is I manage clients' ads for them on we do it for you basis, in that I'm going to write all the ads for you, landing pages. Personally, I'm doing the strategy for you. We got a big team that helps us execute on things under my guidance. But the reason why we can guarantee results is because I got 20 years experience doing this now, and you would get that from me as well if we work together. What I do is I say, hey, John, Mary, whatever, I'll give you at least 20K in sales a month on this starting 3K a month ad budget before we take our management fee. Until then, we don't get paid. We get paid a decent amount once we get you there, of course, but that's the kind of guarantee we give our clients starting out. Or you're doing 20K a month now, John will get you to 40K a month before you start paying the management fee. And as long as you're willing to pay this, fee, once we get you there, we're okay doing that up front for you to show you that our stuff works. If you're interested in that, I can give you an 8-quarter projection of your results. Just simply reach out to me at my agency at guaranteedppc.com and I'll provide it to you. I also have ad templates available. If you're in a market that we've already got results in, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates that work for your niche market. We copy paste that into your ad account. You get those results for yourself. That is, you can obviously copy it into yourself, but respectively, we've already spent years figuring out what works in your market. So why would you want to bother going and testing all this stuff? When we got the golden version of it for, a few K, you can actually just take the winning version of it, run it, and in your geographic market, it'll work just as good as it does in another city or country that our client has been in, of which we can tell you the results of it up front you're going to get from it. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I've got 100+ different niche market templates. So if you're even looking to start a new business, that would be the perfect place to start, because it's proven businesses, essentially. Customers are going to be guaranteed. As I mentioned here before, if you will, you're going to set up new campaigns to get and grow your results past what your limited rat's nest campaigns can do, because they're, you touch this and something else is affected, so to say. What I do at our agency to do this is, even though the rat's nest campaign will do better than our current campaigns, we're thinking ahead. We'll use a hybrid strategy where we'll set up the new campaigns, run them. We'll run the new campaigns at the same time as the old campaigns. And we'll run the new campaigns, spending 10% of what old campaigns spend while we break them in. And we'll just keep optimizing, both sets of campaigns as much as we can, of course, which for the most part on the rat's nest campaigns, really the only thing you can do is adjust your targets and your budgets. Because if you start messing around with the campaign, it's going to throw off everything, and it's just hard to mess with it. Typically, the new campaigns will start getting better and better and better. And eventually, first of all, when the cost per conversion or ROI gets similar to the old campaign, you start spending more money on this new campaigns. And then once you eventually spend so much, you can shut off the old campaigns. And then you're fully transitioned over to these new campaigns, which are going to give you much greater capability to scale your company in terms of the sales that your Google Ads account can create. Then you're all kind of, if you will, home free, and there's unlimited potential because you've got everything segmented out right. If you want to make more money, all you got to do is find a way to get a little bit better click-through rate on something, or a little bit better conversion rate on something on an individualized level, and you'll start making more money. So you just take the money you're making. Okay, this campaign right here, it only has a 20% conversion rate. Let's figure out a landing page for this exact segment that'll get a 30% conversion rate. Oh, great. We're making more money. Okay, let's take the money there. Let's go over and make this landing page now for this segment. And this is how you build up an account over time. At the same time of Google's algorithm optimizing as well on their end. Your job as an advertiser is to segment things out right, coming out with the best and focusing on coming out with the best ad copy, the best landing page copy. And then let the algorithm figure out beyond that, the micro tendencies of the users. That is somebody who searches for pottery wheel for sale, the person who buys, who doesn't buy based upon previous search behavior, and drill that in for you. You're going to give it a better landing page than you had before to give it a little bit more capability to find people that wouldn't necessarily be profitable before, but is now, because you now have a little bit better mousetrap. And that's how you scale up the results going in with Google, what they're doing on their side as well as on your side. There's no point where you can't scale anymore because there's always another way to test a landing page, an ad. Granted, on ad copy, I do usually hit a roadblock with this at a certain point because I pretty much know, having had written thousands of ads, there's only so many things that kind of work as far as hooks and so forth. But the landing page, it can always be tested further. There's always a way to make it a bit better. And so you just keep climbing the results accordingly. It's really that simple. To put it into frame of reference for you here, typically when we start out, the results you're going to get month one on your Google Ads campaigns is 5% of the results you're going to get on year 5 per month. It's going to be 20x different. So if you were started out a campaign, assuming that set up in an average way, you made 10,000, you can assume you're going to be making 200,000 a month per month in sales off that Google Ads account once you're at year 5. And that's conservative. We've had and seen much more than this. Why? Because Google's going to do their own testing, and also because they don't take your ads seriously at the beginning, because most new advertisers suck, and they're going to assume you're that sucky advertiser to give you the poorer quality traffic until you prove them otherwise, which literally speaking, they're going to take the keyword traffic that you're targeting, find the part that doesn't convert, give you that traffic, have your ad show up for that part of the traffic. Whereas the guy that they love, that's doing a great job historically, they're going to make sure their ad shows up for the person who's most likely to convert. And you cannot get around this until you've advertised for a while, they've taken advantage of you for a while, bent you over for a while, and then eventually they see you're doing okay, and then they start to actually give you a higher percentage of the good quality traffic, and eventually only good traffic, if you will. This goes also on the display network and every place else they play these games. Anyway, that's specifically how you make money. And we've sold wakeboarding equipment to give you going into the case studies I wanted to go over here. Literally speaking, the client thought this business, there's no way that we're going to do more than $500,000 a year because the competition in terms of the product that we were selling, they're only doing roughly this. This is a specialized product. It's not wakeboarding gear overall. I said, there's no way. We're going to turn this company. We're going to do at least $3 to $5 million a year. No problems. No way. There's no way. Just as I described, first month, we're doing about 15K with the sales. Started to advertise, started to build up, started to do the testing on the ads and the landing pages, like I'm mentioning. Building it up. Where do you think we are after 5 years in that process now? Where's our monthly sales? We started out at 15K a month. Now, it didn't just 20x, well, beyond that. This year, we're on course, because last year we were doing about $3.5 million. For this year, we're on course to do $4 to $5 million, okay? So the growth does slow down as we go a little bit. You get bigger jumps at the beginning. At the beginning, you might get 200-300% jumps per year-over-year growth in sales. But eventually, you'll still get your 30% year-over-year growth if you just don't stop testing and stop figuring out where's that way that we can make a little bit better ad, a little bit better landing page, and just keep growing it. And then, of course, Google optimizing on their side. So that gives you a general idea of how much this can work. Even in limited markets, going into the other case study, we had an electrical services company, that does a light fixture repair, fix a light socket, that kind of stuff. We started out where we generated 30 to 40 leads a month for this client at about $60 cost per lead. Okay, this was the first 6 months of running this campaign. After heavy testing of the ads and the landing pages here, we got it up over 100 leads a month going into month 24 in the process. So it took quadruple the time, but literally we just kept scaling it. And whereas the average person would have started out saying, oh, this is already good enough. We're good. I'll take our $30, 30 leads a month here. We did not stop. I tested, and then more so than that, for every single keyword, I made a unique landing page so that if they're looking for a chandelier electrician, we have a dedicated page for that. Of course, we had a custom ad for that at the very beginning, but we're sending them to a dedicated page for that. And then once we have that, then we're going to put more detail into it. Make a list of all the different types of chandeliers and that makes the conversion rate a little bit higher. But we just kept consistently putting more and more work in, so the experience for the user would be consistently better and better. And then while we're doing this, Google is going to notice this, decide, hey, you should be getting a higher percentage of the good quality traffic, and they're going to start laying it on thicker and thicker on their side, which, by the way, they can decide to have your ad show up more. They can decide to have your ad show up bigger. That is, show up more site links underneath it, which if you get the click-through rate high enough and the conversion rate up high enough, they'll show not only 8 site links, but then site links descriptions underneath it to the point where you're like the only ad to click on. That didn't happen like that in that market, but I've seen this happen before with our ads. And then your clicks, the number of clicks you're going to get is going to go through the roof. Anyway, you get the general idea. So really, it's not how much can I make, it's how much work you're going to put in at the end of the day. Given that, yes, the effort you put in is going to get you diminishing returns over time. But again, if you're not actually being able to grow your sales 30% year over year, you're just simply not putting in the work to do the testing. And, eventually there is a cap on how much business there is out there. For the first 10 years, it's not going to slow down. Once you get past the first 10 years, whether or not you actually get growth in your account anymore, that's questionable. But certainly the first 10 years, 98% of the time, you're going to be able to get growth year over year, and much faster than what you could get putting your money in the stock market or anything like that. Starting out on Google Ads, that's a great idea. Generally speaking, if you don't have really well segmented campaigns for purposes of testing and segmentation of the traffic and getting rid of traffic that doesn't work, just be careful when you do it. And I recommend the hybrid strategy so you can bridge from what you got now, which may not be great, but you may be relying on the sales of which, to something much better that's going to make you literally millions of dollars a year for your business. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.